sure you heard, as I did at COP26, that the conversation has well and truly shifted from ideas to pragmatic solutions, to getting on with it. And we've just heard that from the panel. I thought that was a terrific conversation. So thanks to you, Mark and Kate, and of course, David. And Mark, I'll just remind you that there was no heat in the castle that January night. You'll remember that as well. You still spoke compellingly. But just now, you've all set out ways to achieve net zero globally, and the Scottish Government's role and ambition within that process. You've shared a lot about the what we can do, what needs to be done, what areas should see our ambition rise higher and sooner to create the momentum and ultimate success that we must have. So I want to shift for a few minutes from the what to the how, and maybe finish up with a few words about the why. I do this because initiating effective change, raising ambition, having broad impact depends not just on goals and the wherewithal to achieve them, but also on the way that organizations and the people in them work. And that's what I mean by the how. I've had experience across many parts of the financial services sector. I ran a clearing bank, sat on the court of the Bank of England in Mark's early days, chair now an investment trust, sat on the board of a private bank, helped create a bank assurance business, and have helped build a number of organizations in the sphere of impact finance, supported the Chartered Banker Institute in creating professional standards for bankers for the first time anywhere. And I currently chair the Financial Services Culture Board in every one of these very different contexts. It's been clear that however good the strategy and however abundant or not the resources, it's people at the end of the day who make the business happen. And their success derives from the culture of the organization. Financial services, of course, needs regulation. We have a lot of that. But if we want our people to follow the spirit and not just the letter of the law, then our organizations need a culture where people at all levels make judgments and take decisions that start with the customer and wider society. A culture where people feel they should be doing the right thing, and one where they'll be recognized and rewarded for doing so. I think it's essential, therefore, to embed the drive to reduce emissions into the core of every financial organization so that it informs how all employees go about their work. COP26 saw financial institutions queuing up to make bold commitments, but unless these are accompanied by adaptation within their organizations, we risk employees identifying the commitments as talk or greenwashing, or as not their responsibility, but belonging to someone else. And that's just not good enough. Firms might set out a strategic framework, such as supporting customers and supply chain partners in their transition to lower carbon emissions, setting ambitious targets to achieve net zero themselves, developing the tools for clear and measurable sight of progress, recognizing the needs, what needs to be done along the way to net zero, and making regular and transparent disclosures to communicate progress, for instance, in line with the guidance set out by the Taskforce on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, the TCFD. Indeed, one would hope every financial institution would do something like that, but even that's not enough on its own because it risks becoming a box-ticking exercise, which is certainly not good enough. Being a net zero financial institution requires a commitment to reducing carbon with engagement from the top down and from the bottom up. A G30 report a couple of years ago spoke to the tone from the top and the echo from the bottom, and I've just found that a wonderful trope. That's all about culture, and both the top down and the bottom up are needed, especially when an organization is moving into uncharted territory. With an appropriate culture in place, firms are more likely to take considered risk because everyone in the organization has responsibility, more likely to go further to refine and develop what they see as possible, more likely to factor in future and not just immediate value, all of which are so important in the net zero transition. Yet that can be made more difficult because of asymmetry of information, because relevant internal analytic capability hasn't yet developed, because there's a lack of clarity about what technologies and what ways of operating will rise to the top in the future. So it's hard to know where to place your bet. Financial services organizations can learn and move more quickly if they do it within a context where different players work together, where firms learn from each other, where collaboration helps get finance out there appropriately and quickly. And that's why with this new task force, we've built a coalition of financial services players ready to work together in Scotland to help achieve net zero. Going back to my question about how, in addition to the internal culture, it's about collaboration, about coalitions, about working together to learn more quickly what works financially. But what gives Scotland the temerity to launch this task force aiming to be a world-leading centre for green and ethical finance? And why us? Well, there's some very good reasons. We can be bold in this way because Scotland has a significant number and a breadth of financial services, organizations, and expertise, disproportionately so for its size. And actually, we can do this in Scotland because of our size, because so many people in business and government and diverse organizations know each other and readily talk to each other. And because even with a national temperament of ostensible modesty, there's deep-rooted pride, which you just heard from David, in the notable international impact Scotland has had on financial services for more than 3 centuries. Over that time, its specific approaches to banking, to insurance, to risk, to audit, to financial education have been picked up and adopted by countries around the world. Why not also with net zero? Several years ago, the Chartered Banker Institute, based in Scotland, launched the world's first benchmark green and sustainable finance certificate. And that's another reason. We're not just starting out today with the launch of this task force. This is a country which has been on the front foot in relation to net zero, setting more aggressive targets for the reduction of greenhouse emissions than others. We have businesses like Scottish Water with its pioneering work on creating heat from wastewater, and universities such as Edinburgh appointing the world's first professor of carbon capture and storage and leading the development of technologies to reduce carbon. They all do this by working collaboratively. Our COP26 legacy presents a unique opportunity at the national level for our financial services sector also to work together and demonstrate global leadership in implementing the GFANZ roadmaps. Get this right, and Scotland has a chance to achieve Kate's vision of being a globally recognized centre for green and sustainable financial services, and maybe there'll be some more heat in the castle. Thank you.